Let's make adult Arnold Palmers on a Walmart budget.
I'm Gray.
And I'm Julie, and we're the Crafty winners.
So most of our videos, almost all of our videos, are geared at people that are already in the winemaking hobby. But this particular series, and I'll link a playlist above, is meant for people that are not. And in this particular case, all the ingredients can come from Walmart. So if you haven't made the jump to buying a wine kit to try to make wine, you can kind of dabble your feet into it and try it with local ingredients. It doesn't have to be a Walmart. It can be any store that has kitchen stuff and obviously food stuff. So this is Arnold Palmer, which is half tea and half lemonade. And what Walmart carries is
Arizona.
and it's called Arnold
Palmer.
Palmer Light, half and half iced tea lemonade. We've made this before. It's pretty good if you like drinks that have caffeine and alcohol.
Well, actually, that's what we're drinking right now.
So we'll go over the stuff that you need. There is one ingredient that is optional and has to be ordered, but it's very optional, and I'll explain that later. You can get any 1 gallon pitcher. Makes life a whole lot easier. You can probably get by without it, but I would totally suggest getting it, and you may already have one. Probably already do.
Most people probably do.
Obviously, you need a gallon of Arnold Palmer. And you could, instead of a gallon of Arnold Palmer, use
Half and half.
half iced tea if they carry it in stock. Ours quits carrying tea during the winter, and it's winter right now. And then half container of lemonade and mix it yourself. But we're using one that's already mixed.
Which makes it easier.
You need to make sure everything is cleaned very well because germs that are included into your drink can explode with the food that you're going to be giving it, because a bacteria like food too, just like yeast do. So this is antibacterial Dawn. You should wash everything in that and then rinse it really well, because it can leave a little bit of a residue taste if you don't rinse it well.
Bacteria likes food. I do too.
So do I. And it's almost that time.
Mm-hmm.
Baking soda, Fleischmann's active dry yeast, and we're using one that we started in our last filming segment. We're just going to use the rest of it in this one.
Yep.
You do need 2 packets of this. They come in packets of 3. So get some extra so that you can try our other recipes. This is another optional ingredient, but it's good to feed your yeast and make them very happy. So what we suggest doing, this is whole wheat flour. It's good to stay away from the bleach stuff because the bleach takes out some of the nutrients. But if you can get whole wheat flour like this, don't use pancake mix, although people have done it, but it has milk in it, and I wouldn't suggest putting the milk in your iced tea.
No.
But wheat germ is another variety, and if you can't find anything else, the non-instant cream of wheat will work in a pinch. So we took 5 tablespoons of this and 1 full packet of the Fleischmann's yeast, and then put that in the oven for 10 minutes at 225. What that does is it kills any wild yeast that might be in the flour, and it also kills the yeast
that we put in.
And the yeast that we're going to put in a few minutes will eat this. It's kind of cannibalistic and gross, but that's what happens. So that's life. So this is totally optional, but highly recommended. When we do our seltzer recipe, it's required for that recipe, because otherwise there isn't any nutrient from that. But we'll get into that when we do our seltzer recipe. Containers. Walmart rotates out their containers. It seems like every few months they'll discontinue one and bring another one in. Any container that is over a gallon, preferably plastic just for cost, that has a spigot will work. And this is the one we're using today. But in past recipes, we've used this style and we've used this style. So whichever one is in your Walmart, even if they have one that we're not using here, the important things are the spigot and over a gallon.
And you may already have something like that sitting around in your kitchen.
So, first thing we want to do
is put in
our... You might want to shake the Arnold Palmer up. I noticed that there's some sediment at the bottom.
That's from the tea, I think. Does that.
And pour it into your pitcher.
We're going to pour half of it into our pitcher.
Yeah, we're only doing half on this recipe, and you'll see why a little bit later. So that's the 2-quart line. And then put the rest of this in your fridge to be used at a later date. So now we're going to add 1 tablespoon plus or minus of our food.
Our yeast food.
Our yeast food. So we made up 1 batch for our filming day. You can do the same. It's, again, 5 tablespoons of flour and 1 full packet of yeast. Bake it in the oven for 10 minutes at 225. And then just put it away to be used for other of our recipes that you want to try.
So it'll make 5 batches.
It'll make, yep, pretty much.
Then we're going to add a half a teaspoon of baking soda. And our sugar, which is 1 1/4 cup of sugar.
And then stir it up good. Pour it into our fermenting container. Whichever container you end up using needs to have a way for CO2 to escape without blowing something up. And also keep bugs from entering this. So each one of these is a little slight different. This particular container just has a pinhole, and it's a very small hole, so fruit flies and other bugs are not going to be able to get through that, most likely. If you are in a situation where maybe you have little ants in your house, you could plug that up and just leave the lid on somewhat loosely so that the CO2 can escape. CO2 will find a way to escape if it can. So just make sure you don't have it on so tight that it can't. These other types of containers don't have the pinhole lids. So on this one, you can just leave this on loosely. Don't twist it on, and that'll keep bugs out. And this one has a flip. So just don't close it all the way. You can also, if you'd like, watch our red wine on a Walmart budget video where we showed how to use a wine cork and a balloon to make an airlock. But that's not necessary in this case. You can just keep this on loosely like that.
I am going to take the second half of this packet that I didn't use in our first recipe and sprinkle it in here.
Yeah, we use at least half a container of the yeast. There's no need to use a full container, but you can if you want to. It's not going to hurt anything.
And this is pretty inexpensive stuff. It's like $1 something for 3.
So now I put my lid on. Put this in an area where it'll stay 80-85 degrees, preferably. The warmer the better, within reason. Don't go too extreme on the heat, but 80-85 degrees is great. So if you have a water heater room you can put it into.
That works really well.
Tomorrow I'm going to come look at this and make sure it's bubbling. And it should be bubbling and frothing, and there should be a lot of activity because this yeast is alive and it's going to be consuming the food you gave it plus the sugar. In 4 weeks, it's possible to be done before 4 weeks, but I would suggest leaving this a full 4 weeks. You're going to be looking for all the activity to stop and not see any bubbling, which means that the fermentation has stopped and it's quit releasing CO2. And both of those things you want to have be the case before we start the next step. So you're welcome to taste it at that point too. If you taste it, you'll know that it's done because there won't be any sweetness. It'll taste a little weird, not a lot of flavor, and 0 sweet. And you'll also know at that point from that it's done. So we're going to put ours away, and we will be back when that is done.
So we're back.
It's been right at 4 weeks, and all of the activity, other than just a little bit of fizz at the top that's from CO2, has stopped. And we used a tool or two to determine that the fermentation is definitely done. So again, 4 weeks is the magic number. So now we are going to take this out of this container and put it into our pitcher, mainly because there's a bunch of sediment down at the bottom. There's sediment on the walls too, but sediment at the bottom that we want to leave behind. So this is called racking, and we're using the spigot to accomplish this. So what we're going to end up doing is adding the half of Arnold Palmer that we didn't use back into here to flavor it and sweeten it a little bit so that it tastes more like an Arnold Palmer and not the bland, unsweet thing that it is right now. So one note on that, you normally, when you make wine, would use something called potassium sorbate to make the yeast in here unable to reproduce anymore to start a new fermentation because you're adding food and sweetness, sugar, back in there. And if this gets warm, they can start fermenting again. When they ferment, that produces CO2, as you should see now. And if you have that in bottles or in a container that is closed, you can come up with a bottle bomb. And that's not going to be fun, especially with tea that can stain stuff.
And be
So,
sticky.
all that to say, you're welcome to buy the potassium sorbate from Walmart's site. And it's still not breaking the rules of our Walmart video. I'll link it in the description below. But you don't have to do that. Just keep this in the refrigerator unless you're drinking it. And you don't need to worry about the fermentation starting. So drink it cold and keep it cold. Or buy the potassium sorbate and wait for a week for it to get to you, and that works too. If you do the potassium sorbate, you want to put it in here and then wait a full 24 hours before you add this. But then again, you can let it warm up and give it to your friends, and they can let it warm up without any fear of explosions. So we're going to go ahead and rack this. There is a lot of sediment in this that you don't normally see in our recipes, and that's going to be because of the tea that came unsuspended and the lemonade. So it isn't a bad idea to take this container and put it into your cold fridge for a few days before you do this. That'll allow a lot of that sediment to get down to the bottom, more so than what you see in my container. So I'd say that's probably a good step, but it's optional. There's also sediment in the Arnold Palmer itself.
Yeah.
And when I put that back in here, there you'll see little bits of lemonade stuff floating around. So it's not the end of the world to have that in there. I'm going to leave about half an inch of this Arnold Palmer at the bottom because I don't want the sediment to come out more than it already has. And again, this isn't as clear as it could be. So to fix that, put this in the fridge for 3 days, and you'll see a lot of that sediment sink down to the bottom, and then just carefully bring it out before you use the spout to put it into here so that the sediment stays in that container. That's the whole goal.
And iced tea is usually that color anyway.
It doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother me either.
There might be a little bit more of a yeasty taste if you don't do that, depending on how much of that stuff floating around is actually yeast. So now we're adding the half gallon that we didn't ferment into the half gallon that we did. So the amount of sugar that we told you is good for around 9%. This one a little over dry, so it's probably about 9.5%. So by putting this other half gallon in here, we're having that. So this is going to be a little less than 5% alcohol, the full gallon, which is about what you want this kind of a drink to be.
Mm-hmm.
And look at that, it made exactly a gallon.
Perfect.
Go figure. I'm going to stir it a little bit. There could be some CO2 that's still in this. You'll know by the fact that there's fizz rising to the top when you stir it. I don't see much in this one, so I don't think it's really a factor. So basically, if there is fizz, just keep stirring it till there isn't fizz before you drink it. Or again, let it sit in the fridge for a while and it naturally will dissipate out. We're going to give this a taste using our glass that is not from Walmart. Forgive me, because we don't have any pretty
anyone.
Walmart glasses. Walmart have any pretty glasses? I don't think they do. Don't tell them I said that.
Shh, don't say that either. No, actually, you know what? They do. They have some cute houseware stuff.
So this is half fermented Arnold Palmer and half not fermented Arnold Palmer.
Half and half. Oh, it's half and half
Half
and
and
half
half
and
of half and half. And it averages out to be about 4.5%, 5%. We've made this manually using just iced tea and lemonade. And it's more complex because you've got more variables. This is a lot simpler.
A lot simpler.
It's not half bad.
No, it's not.
This is going to be another one that's good chilled, better chilled than warm.
Definitely chilled.
This is probably 75 degrees or so. So I would like it cooler than it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It is.
It does taste like Arnold Palmer. Mm-hmm. Maybe not as much lemon. as what
That's probably because of the way they make this one.
and if you want more lemon, add a little lemonade to it just to make it more lemony. So I don't think anybody would want it more tea than what it is, but if you did, you could add Arizona iced tea. I think said earlier that our Walmart doesn't carry just regular iced tea after it seems like September or October.
I don't know why.
Can't
It's
find
kind of
it, but
weird.
you seem to be able to get this year round. So
I guess you could make your own tea, though, also from just tea bags and use that. Make your own iced tea.
So for a creative thing that is not really part of the Walmart, not part of this video, is we've carbonated this and made it pretty good too.
Yeah, it is good carbonated.
So that's not going to be part of this video. You would probably want to force carbonate it, and I'll link that video above. Obviously, not Walmart stuff that you need to do that, but
Did not come from Walmart.
just for a very creative thing that probably nobody has ever given you before. Carbonated Arnold Palmer is
because
pretty tasty.
usually what's twisted tea that you buy in the can, it's not carbonated. So this will taste more like that, but carbonated is good too. And I was going to say, if you wanted to serve this like iced tea over ice, you could put a lemon wedge on it too, and you could add your own lemon if you wanted extra lemon in your Arnold Palmer.
Sure.
But it's good just like it is.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you try it. Let us know how it turned out and how you liked it, and if you made any adjustments or changes to it, how those turned out. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Until next time, cheers!